Hello and welcome to the Internal Comms podcast with me, Katie Macaulay. I'm on a mission to make communication at work work. My guest today is Jo Hudson, Group Director of Internal Communication at Bupa. It's my great pleasure to bring you this wide-ranging conversation with Jo. Jo, welcome to the Internal Comms podcast. It's lovely to have you here in person.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
For listeners who might not know Bupa all that well, can you start by sharing a little bit about the organisation, its scale, its scope, its mission in the world, if you like?
Sure. Most people will know us as a UK health insurer. Your listeners might have Bupa as part of their employment package, but we're much bigger than that. So we were formed in 1947, the year before the NHS in the UK. And our biggest markets are actually Australia, then Spain, then the UK. But we have big businesses in New Zealand, Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, Poland, Turkey, Latin America. And we offer the whole spectrum of healthcare services. So health insurance is, of course, one of our core businesses. But we run hospitals and healthcare clinics, dental practices, care homes, as well as digital health around the world. So we have around 100,000 employees and over 60 million customers globally.
Wow.
So big organisation and 8 official languages from an internal comms point of view.
Lots of lovely complexity already there for internal comms folks. You are the Group Director of Internal Communication. Yes. Give us a sense of your main areas of responsibility and also the size of your team, because in preparing for this show, you suggested that it's quite lean for that size of organisation.
When I talk to other internal comms practitioners, they always talk about quite big numbers for teams, and we're very small. But we do have a big network of internal comms practitioners across the organisation globally. My team is 13 of us.
Right.
And we're responsible for global internal communications, so those big employee set pieces that we do across the organisation. And then we also have responsibility for our head office population, which is around 600 people based in London. So quite a big remit, but we work really closely with those people in market, in those business units, delivering directly to the front line of our organisation. Small team, but fairly large network, I would say.
And just out of curiosity, because other people will have kind of a business partner relationship, or they'll have communication champions.
Yes.
Do those people in the market and in the business report to you? Or is it much more of a kind of alliance, if you like, an informal alliance?
So they don't report to me, but we have relationships that we've built over years and we work really closely together. I meet every 2 weeks with the internal comms leads, as we call them, and talk about what's coming down the line from a group point of view. But also we have a lovely relationship where we can pick each other's brains about things and bounce ideas off each other, and it creates that community of internal comms practitioners around the world. It's a great group. We love working together.
Just want to pick your brains on that one just a little bit more. If someone's thinking about setting up a group like that, setting up that network, is there one key to success, do you think?
Being there for each other and having that relationship is really key. We all have the same challenges. We all have the same gripes. We have similarities in our stakeholders. Everyone listening will have very similar kind of challenges that we do at Bupa. It's all the same, really. And just understanding that and building that sense of trust and working together as one team and the same outcome. We're all trying to get best outcomes for our employees and making sure that comms land in the right way. So understanding that and understanding the pressures that come. So one of the big things for me and my team is that we're running these huge global campaigns for 100,000 people and lots of different languages, lots of collateral, but understanding the challenges that the people in the business are facing as well, and the other competing priorities that are coming their way, and knowing that while they want to do their best for the global campaign, they've also got local activity they need to get out as well. So understanding those pressures is really important.
That's a neat segue to diving into your audience. You've already talked about the complexity and diversity in terms of languages and global footprint, but in terms of role and responsibility and hierarchy and all of those things, how do you think about your audience? Do you segment them in a certain way?
We have a big leadership population. So we have our top 75 leaders, which we communicate with directly. Then we have another population called the Global Leadership Team, which is around 700 people globally. And then as you get further down into the organisation, it becomes more the responsibility of the business internal comms leads to have that ownership of those audiences. But when we're doing a global campaign, we have to really think carefully about what those roles are, what those people will be wanting to hear from us, how do they want to receive the comms, understanding what their day job is and how they consume comms. they're time poor. Their focus should be on our customers, and that's really what they want to be focusing on them as much as possible their time on.
Yeah.
So they don't have time to read huge corporate dry documents. How can we produce communications that are attractive to them and that they want to engage in? So we have to really put ourselves in their shoes and understand what their day looks like, really.
Yeah. And a huge challenge, and the challenge of the day, is that unwired population. Do you have a sense of the percentage of employees that have very limited digital access, not sat in front of a screen, maybe not even have a desk at all? Do you have a sense of how big that is within your workforce?
It's a big proportion of our organisation who are on the front line, talking to customers, don't have access to an email address. And it's a huge challenge. If I think back to 4 years ago, before we launched Workvivo, we had no real way of directly contacting those people.
Right.
So really relied heavily on manager cascade. And clearly that always depends on how comfortable your manager feels about communicating. And that doesn't always come naturally to every manager. As much as you provide the materials for them to help them do that, that doesn't always happen or doesn't happen in the right way. So it's a huge challenge that I know lots of organisations face that have a huge frontline population, especially in healthcare, because we have to be so careful about customer data. And so, and, you know, time, protecting that time that people can spend with customers. That should be the focus of what they're doing.
Yeah. When I started back in internal comms, and we don't need to say how long ago that was, the technology with which we had, you know, at our fingertips was very, very limited.
Sure.
We live in a world now where there are a sea of applications and all sorts of things that you can use to sort of reach the front line. How did you approach the decision to choose Workvivo? Were there some non-negotiables in your mind when you were looking at evaluating all these different options?
Yeah, for me, so translation is a massive thing for us.
Right.
We have 8 official languages at Bupa, and being able to streamline that process and have something that was automated, that was able to translate content so that we weren't constantly going to the businesses to say, can you put this into Polish for us? Can you put this into Turkish for us? And we didn't have to spend huge amounts of money with translation agencies because we don't have huge budgets to do that. That was really important. I really wanted a platform that served content to people in their native language and felt native to them. That was a really key consideration. The other big one was supplier relationship is hugely important to me. So a team that we felt was an extension of our team, that we could pick up the phone and ask them about things, or that if something happened and went wrong, that we would know that we could get support as quickly as possible. And then I wanted us to have some input into the roadmap and the development of the tool.
Wow.
And with some of the bigger suppliers, while we're a big organisation, we're not the biggest organisation in the world, and we knew that we wouldn't be a priority for them. So I really wanted a supplier that would work with us to develop the tool. I often find with a lot of these internet tools that they are developed by developers rather than practitioners, people who have expertise in comms and know what they're looking for. And so to work with developers, obviously Workvivo do have developers, to work with them to say, this isn't working quite right for us. Can you help us to pivot it slightly or create this new functionality that will do things slightly differently? That's the dream, really. And that's what we found in Workvivo as a partner.
This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is brought to you by AB, the world's longest established internal communications agency. Since 1964, AB has been trusted by many of the world's most complex, most high-profile organisations with their employee communication. From robust, comprehensive audits to creative campaigns, we deliver bespoke solutions and measurable results. To see case studies of our work and to discuss your next internal comms challenge, email us at hello@abcom.co.uk. AB, crafting award-winning internal communication for more than 60 years. One of the biggest challenge I hear a lot is around getting employees to download an app on a personal device. Was this an issue? Because presumably not all your people are given work devices.
No, absolutely. It was something we were really worried about to begin with. We didn't know how it was going to go, how people would receive it. I think what we found was that people were really ready to be more involved in the organisation and wanted to feel part of the wider Bupa, not just their small part of Bupa, but to feel part of something bigger. And they were eager to hear what was going on and to get involved in some of the fun stuff we have going on. So it wasn't as hard as we thought it might be. There's still pockets of the organisation where it's more of a challenge. We have quite a large proportion of self-employed people who might work in dental clinics or in clinics in Poland specifically. So that's more tricky because you need to make that connection with the organisation, with the purpose, for them clearer. They don't maybe feel like they work for Bupa. They will actually work for their clinic or, their specific entity, if you like. So when it's still not 100% there, but it's always going to be a work in progress. But we were pleasantly surprised with the reaction from our people and the uptake and engagement we've seen from them. Yeah, it was great to see.
Talk to us a little bit about what the journey looked like in terms of timings and how quickly people adopted it. You've really been on a sort of 4-year journey.
Yes.
But if someone's planning now that adoption journey, what should they think of in terms of realistic timings for a launch? And then is it a gradual, slow adoption or is there an immediate peak? What did you see?
So we had a really clear plan right from the beginning when we started the conversations with Workvivo. Once we got to contract signing stage, we set ourselves a very tight deadline. So we said we wanted to deliver it in 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
I think primarily because we're a big organisation and things can be really slow, especially within the technology architecture that we have globally. We've grown in a lot of workplaces through acquisition.
Right.
So you build a legacy of technology architecture in those businesses and they don't always talk to each other and they can be more difficult to align. So, and then we also had the Onwired challenge that we had never solved before Workvivo. So it was really building a platform for all of that kind of data from our people and their personal email addresses that would then give them a door into the Bupa architecture as well. Perfect. The amount of data that we had to gather and clean and store securely. It was a massive piece of work, but things can move very slowly in an organisation of our size. And we knew that if we didn't set ourselves a really challenging time frame, it could take years.
Yes.
And we would eventually drag our feet. And it was the start of our new CEO's strategy era.
Yes.
And he was really keen that we were digital first. He was very focused on digital transformation. We needed to move quickly to show the whole organisation that it can be done. It's not impossible. We can do this stuff and we can work at pace on big transformation projects like this. So it was really a showcase of digital transformation and how it can be done at Bupa. So that was the first piece. We took a pilot approach. So we chose a couple of businesses to try it out with. What we didn't want to do is go big bang to all 100,000 people and fall over and have egg on our face. We wanted to try it out, see how it went and take a real kind of MVP approach to it, test and learn, those cliches. But what isn't working so well? How can we fix things? How can we pivot? How can we change things? And that's what we did. We launched to a much smaller population and then gradually added in different business units. The other thing is coming back to what are those business priorities that are competing with us wanting to launch an internal comms platform that we need to be aware of. So making sure that it was the right time for each business to come on board, that our people would have the airspace to focus on this new thing rather than worrying about delivering financial results or a big customer change at the same time, actually finding a gap in the schedule, if you like, to launch this to each population in the right way. And at the right time. Yeah, so we took a gradual approach, but I would say a fast gradual approach.
Yes.
So it was definitely less than a year to roll out to everyone. I'd say 6 months to get out to the whole organisation. And then we had a few businesses that aren't wholly owned by Bupa as well that wanted to also get on board. So also creates its own challenges in terms of data and things like that. So they joined us slightly later. From signing contract to having everybody on board was about probably 6 to 9 months, I'd say.
It's impressive, considering all that complexity you've described.
Yeah.
Did you have to work hard at kind of pinpointing the benefits for different sort of personas and roles within the business? Was that a key part of that launch plan, I'm guessing?
Absolutely. I think everyone could see that there were challenges with our internal comms model pre-Workvivo. There wasn't one global mailing list. There wasn't an easy way to communicate with everyone at the same time. And it was quite disjointed and there wasn't any opportunities to showcase all of the great stuff that was happening across the organisation. It was very manual for us to be able to storytell what's happening in Australia or what's happening in Chile to people. And people wanted to see that. The need for it was very clear. We did have to explain the difference between Teams and Workvivo. So why would I need this new tool, especially to the wired population who have communication at their fingertips,
Yes.
as opposed to those unwired people that didn't before. So what do you use Workvivo for? What do you use Teams for? What do you use email for? And then definitely a journey, because we wanted to make sure that we were reducing the number of emails that were going out. How do we explain that when people are saying, I'd love to send my newsletter to this population of people, and we're saying, actually, we're not doing that anymore. You have this new tool, you can communicate to everyone in a really engaging way, but it's on this platform now. We're not sending emails anymore. We don't want to clutter up inboxes anymore. So yeah, a bit of explanation and education around some of that stuff.
I think that's so important. It's interesting to me that actually when clients come and they say, I need a new tool, I need a new platform, I need a new channel, often what they first need is just to identify the core purpose of each one and explain that to their employees.
Exactly. What are you trying to achieve?
Yes.
Who are you trying to target? What are you trying to say to them? And then what is the best channel for that?
Yeah, absolutely. And have you reduced email traffic?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Right. And to the point where we are looking at whether we need our newsletter tool anymore, because I think there will always be a need for an email tool of some form for certain situations. But actually the number of licenses that we have currently, we think we can probably reduce that by about half. It's not being used as much, which is great to see.
Yeah.
And Workvivo are about to launch their new newsletter tool as well. And we're going to be giving that a go and piloting it across the organisation. So I'm hopeful that will happen in the next few months.
You're at sort of the end of this 4-year period of launch and adoption. Is there something you know now that you wish you'd known back then?
When we set out on the journey, we did spend a lot of time talking and worrying about how people would use the tool, whether they would use it in the right way, whether they might use it in the wrong way to say things that we didn't want on the platform, to bring their own personal agendas into work, talk about politics or religion, those kinds of things.
Yes.
And which can be very divisive, and we just didn't want that in a work environment. So there was lots of conversations about that and the risk of what we would do in that scenario. But in the end, we very much felt that we needed to trust our people and have an adult relationship with them. They are adults and we shouldn't be treating them like children, and understand that this is a professional platform. And that is really our experience of it, that actually people are very accountable for their words. They're of course allowed to have an opinion, but they do take accountability for those words. And it's a bit like how you talk on LinkedIn, a professional social media platform, as opposed to how you might talk on Facebook. And that's definitely the difference that we see. We also have some really fun groups that people can join to talk about their pets or their hobbies or their holiday and share their photos. And so there are outlets for those kinds of conversations, but in the right way, so that the work is separated from that personal content.
Perfect. I imagine getting leaders on the platform must have been key, because leaders, we know, are role models. They set the tone.
Yes.
How did you go about that challenge?
We're very lucky because the top of the organisation, our very senior leaders, really do role model it, and they see the value of it. They use it themselves. Iñaki, our CEO, uses it himself and does a lot of his own comms. He wants to write it. He wants to be authentic, which is fantastic. He's very good at role modelling that. We do a lot of storytelling, so sharing successes that leaders have seen when using Workvivo to its full potential. You can't ever make a direct correlation, I think, between using an internal comms platform and engagement scores.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely very clear that the leaders that use Workvivo to its full potential see huge increases in their people engagement scores.
Wow.
So we are able to really share their success and tell those stories, and hopefully encourage other leaders to get on board and use it as well and give it a go. There's nothing to lose, right? It's about making some time in your diary to dip in, comment on people's posts, share people's posts, and understanding the impact that has on those people. That actually makes a real difference, to feel heard and to feel seen by your leader, by that name that you recognise as the leader of your business. That feels like a really big deal. I certainly feel it when a leader likes one of my posts. That is the same for other people, to show that they authentically and genuinely care about what you're doing, the work that you do is really important. And to see leaders having fun on the platform as well is really important. So it's really easy to show the link for people and for them to see that. There's still work to do and there always will be. And it's about how we help those leaders get more comfortable doing that kind of thing and finding the space in their very busy diaries to engage in that way, but understanding the importance of really getting involved, and communication is part of their role.
I love that you found this link. And I think, between using the platform and engagement, you're absolutely right. Whether that's causation or correlation, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
There's a link, which is powerful. And presumably there's a little bit of a snowball effect.
Yes.
Other leaders seeing others thinking, they're doing this, maybe I should be too.
Absolutely. Especially when it comes from right at the top of the organisation.
Yes.
Actually, their direct reports then see their leader doing that. So they then take the lead and do it themselves. And you do see it ripple through the organisation. Absolutely.
Years ago, when I did some research for a book I wrote about how to get more people on social platforms, I was asked this by organisations where the CEO would get in a lift and wouldn't even make eye contact with people.
Wow.
I was thinking, if you're not social in that situation, how can you expect me to be social in another digital way? I'm just wondering, maybe it's too much to say, has it impacted the culture, do you think?
I personally think yes. I think it's a mixture of introducing a platform like Workvivo and having that much more kind of informal engagement tool.
Yes.
And COVID, actually. I think the impact of COVID was that leaders had to be much more authentic. There had to be much more openness. We were all suddenly at home, right?
Yes.
And our kids were in the background, our pets, and the doorbell was ringing and you were interrupted. The lines between work and personal life became much more blurred, and that, I think, opened the doors to authenticity, which we at Bupa haven't seen leave again. I think that's been really lovely. We've been able to hold on to that authenticity and openness in our culture and from our leaders. So I've been really grateful for that. I think it is good to take those positives out of that situation.
Yes.
I think it's not always going to come naturally to all people, and that's okay. We'll do what we can to support those people who are less comfortable with doing that.
Yeah.
But I think if you can always lead with yourself and who you are first, that's the only thing you can do, really. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. How about content? Has having the tool changed the way you think about content, changed your editorial decisions, changed your experimentation with formats, for example?
I think so. It's opened all of our eyes to the sorts of things we can create. I think there's a couple of things for me. So we think very deeply about our audience and how time poor they are. So all content has to be super short and sweet and get to the point as quickly as possible. And then the other thing for me is, how do we make it fun? Always. We spend more time at work than we do at home. And I don't know about you, but my attention span when I'm looking at content in my personal life is extremely short.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I'm watching a TV program and scrolling on my phone at the same time. So, I need something that's going to grab my attention and keep me engaged. And that's no different at work. We don't do boring comms in my team. I've found it. So, how can we always bring the fun to any piece of comms? Because I want people to feel like, oh, there's a new bit of content there. Let me look at that. I want people to feel that's something they want to engage with, rather than scrolling past, which is so easy to do.
Not doing boring. I love that. And I think all comms teams should have that as a little... We don't do
on the wall. Yes. Yeah.
Often that does require, though, you convincing a stakeholder somewhere that you don't need to sit behind the desk, speak to camera, do that kind of stage thing. Let's jazz it up a little bit. I was speaking to a client the other day. Their CFO brought their children in to explain the P&L.
Great.
And I thought, what a fantastic
That's a great idea. I'm stealing that.
It's a great idea, isn't it? But it does require a leader to sort of adopt and accept and be, say, I'll be brave and go with it. Do you have to do a little bit of that behind the scenes, convincing people to go that way?
Because we've been on that journey for a few years now. Right. We've built the trust. We've built the reputation with our leaders. When I come to them with a mad idea, they're kind of okay with it. They're like, oh, let's give it a go. And I'm okay with trying something new and it not always working. That's fine with me. Let's give it a go. If it doesn't work, we don't have to use it.
Yes, that's true.
Or we can use it. If it doesn't get the engagement, we won't do it again like that. So getting people comfortable with that has been really key. And actually, I think we're in a good place with leadership, and they do give things a go and they are game for a laugh. And it's good.
It used to be, before all this wonderful technology, you'd send something out and there was this deathly silence. And I can remember in the 90s, if I'm being really honest, silence was taken as success.
Sure.
It was like, no one's complained. Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, I'm guessing, but tell me, there must be quite a lot of data and metrics at your fingertips to tell you what's working and what's not.
Yeah. And it's really visible to everyone as well. You can see the likes and the comments. People know if something's been engaging or not, if people have reacted to it or not. There's obviously the deep analytics, you know, in the admin space. You can go and look at the dashboards and all the rest of it. And you can pull all the reports out for our team and then obviously to share. But it's that visible data that I think it's really obvious if something's worked or hasn't. And there's a lot more transparency, I think, because of that data, which is great. But it also gives us huge evidence that we can use to say, this hasn't worked and we shouldn't do it like this again. This content, however, works fantastically well. We know that our people want more of that, so let's do it this way. It makes it much easier for communicators to have those conversations with stakeholders if they do have a clear idea of what they want to do. That video of you talking to camera didn't work.
Yes.
So let's get your kids in and try this and have a go with it. You know, that's a great idea.
You've got the hard evidence to back up what you know intuitively is right.
Yeah.
Let's help viewers, listeners with the business case a little bit here and just throw around some ideas about what they might say as the business value. I was reading a research report, I think it came out of MIT and Stanford very recently, that said this deep dive into an organisation with a social platform and discovered that it flattened the hierarchy and all done all sorts of wonderful things. You've talked about the link between engagement. Any other sort of business benefits that you think might have come through?
I think that when we set out on the Workvivo journey, we were just about to launch our new corporate global strategy to everyone at Bupa, which was a very important time. Obviously, our CEO was new into role, high stakes. We wanted it to go well for him and to deliver the benefits that, and for everyone to galvanize behind a global corporate strategy and all pull in the same direction and be aiming for the same targets and the same vision that he had. And so I think Workvivo has been an incredibly important tool for us to help us get that message out. I don't think we would have been able to do what we've done in terms of engaging 100,000 people around the world in that strategy if we hadn't had a tool like that. You know, we had disparate intranets that didn't talk to each other. We had pockets of email distribution lists, patchy cascade through managers, and the amount of kind of people, time and effort it would have taken to deliver the message to everyone at Bupa through those methods would have been impossible. And we've been able to see, and again, you cannot make direct links between a comms platform and business success, but I'd like to think that we've played a really important role in the business's success in the last 4 years. We've seen increases in profit and revenue, people engagement, customer numbers, market share, return on investment. Every single business metric is going up in a big way. And I would love us to say that in part of that is to do with the fact that we've managed to get all of our people singing the same song and pulling the same direction. It's been a huge kind of enabling factor in that success, I think.
Yes, wonderful. Now, there's a question that's going to intrigue our audience. You've already hinted about a new corporate strategy. What does a sleeping elephant have to do with your business transformation at Bupa?
People always look at me like I've got two heads when I talk about Bupa's elephant. So going back to 2021, our CEO is about to enter into the new role as global CEO. His name's Iñaki. He came from our Spanish business. He'd been the CEO of the Europe and Latin American market unit, been in the business for a long time. And he talked about Bupa as an elephant. And he said that we were strong and robust and big, but we were asleep and we needed to wake up and get running. And so we really took that analogy and ran with it, literally. And we've just had really good fun with it. It's been such a fantastic analogy for us to use to get everyone galvanized and excited and inspired. And the storytelling we've been able to do with the elephant has been incredible. And we launched with a fantastic animation that told the story of why an elephant and what were we trying to do and the behaviours we needed to change in order to get up and run to compete with our competitors and outperform them. And so we had that 3-year strategy period. We've just launched the second phase of the strategy story, which is called Savannah 27,
Nice.
which is aiming for 2027 and the goals we have there. And really, having spent the last 3 years getting the elephant up and running and awake, now is time for us to look out across the savannah at Bupa's and the elephant's role in wider society, which again is chapter 2 of a fantastic story, which is just a comms dream for us, really. It's been interesting for us to work on. It's been really an opportunity for us to flex our creative muscles and like I say, have fun with it. It all comes down to, is it engaging? Does it get our people inspired and interested? And it really has. Yeah, it's been great.
I love it. The power of analogy.
Yes.
There's other ways you're talking about maximising your synergies and breaking down silos.
And corporate strategy frameworks and all of those boring things. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're working in a care home and you're taking care of our residents, that is an incredibly difficult job. And how do we cut through and help you understand a bit of what the future of the organisation is? What's the vision? Why do you want to work for Bupa versus the other care home down the road? Actually, our vision is very inspiring and our purpose is very inspiring, and it gives us that kind of storytelling tool to be able to do that.
It's also very egalitarian as a story.
Yes.
Whatever my generation, my role, my seniority, in my mind, I've got that picture and I understand it. It's really clever.
Absolutely. It's been very inclusive, and Inyaki's a very inclusive leader. He wants everyone to know what the vision is for the organisation and be part of that. He talks about getting on the train, another great analogy, but making sure everyone is on the train is really important to him. And so we've hopefully helped him to do that and get everyone on board. But yeah, it's been, like I say, it's a comms dream. We've just had a great time doing it.
Talk to me a little bit about Iñaki. You've mentioned him more than once. Getting the sense that lots of viewers and listeners would love to have a leader a bit like that. What makes him so special? You've even called him a genius when it comes to comms, but what's his secret sauce, do you think?
Hopefully he doesn't listen to this because I'll be really embarrassed. He is a comms dream, really. So he really understands communications and the importance of doing that. He's a fantastic role model, I think, for communications across the organisation. Really leads from the front, shows people the best way to engage with others. He's inspiring, he's full of energy. He has a really fantastic way of phrasing things like the elephant and getting on the train. And he just adds a bit of magic to everything he does. And people sit up and listen whenever he talks. I always talk about him having being a bit of a celebrity across Bupa.
Really?
Because everyone knows him. And we have to use him strategically. It can create a bit of a problem because everyone wants Iñaki to front their project. And obviously he doesn't have time to do exactly. He's got business to run. So how do we use him strategically in the best way? But yeah, when we do use him, he gets the eyeballs, people pay attention. So yeah, fantastic leader, but particularly for communications.
It's great to hear. You've been stretching the creative boundaries of internal comms when it comes to sort of formats. I believe that, is it right that you've actually been using virtual reality?
Yes, we have. Yes. So when we launched Savannah 27, I think because we've done things differently over the last 3 to 4 years, we're always trying to think, what's the new thing? What's the next thing that we can get people's attention with? And in this instance, we decided we wanted to use augmented reality. We found a fantastic supplier to help us do that. And when we launched Savannah 27, we had this augmented reality experience that people could really immerse themselves in the new strategy via their phone. They were greeted by a holographic Iñaki
Wow.
to introduce the story in their living room or wherever they were. But he was there in the room talking to them about the strategy, surrounded by plants and birds song and zebras walking in the background. And you could walk through the different elements of the strategy via this experience. When people got to the end of the experience, they were able to take a selfie with an elephant, post it on Workvivo, and then that entered them into a competition to win a trip to Kenya to visit the real life savannah. And our competition winner's actually just got back from Kenya and she's had a wonderful time. We've been able to share some of her experience on Workvivo as well. So it's really a full story, full circle story from that point of view. But again, how do we cut through the noise? How do we help people to have fun with the work stuff and engage with the corporate strategy in a way that doesn't feel like it's a corporate strategy or doesn't feel like work, but they understand what we're trying to achieve as an organisation. They know what the role that they can play in that is.
Yes.
And I think we've achieved that.
And created that sense of excitement
Yes.
as well, which is fantastic.
Mm.
Talk me through the practicalities. Do they have to wear headsets?
No. So
Wow.
you can just scan a QR code and it pulls up a website. And what we really wanted to avoid was having to have logins and information security around it. Actually, all of the information that was in the experience was not something that would impact our reputation externally. So we were able to just give people free access to that. And it was something that technology helped us immensely with, to be able to launch something like that very quickly at the beginning of the year. We had to work really closely with those guys to get that up and running, but it's worked brilliantly. And it's been a real talking point for people as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's been great.
I love that so much. And what a sensible thing. If it doesn't impact the share price, if it isn't going to do any damage externally,
Yes,
then remove the firewall.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
such a good
we're really lucky that we don't have shareholders. So we have an
Right.
unusual corporate structure. So that doesn't matter. But we do obviously have to be extremely careful about customer data. We're a regulated business through
Right.
the insurance side. So it is always a consideration. But it's all information that will eventually go into our annual report when we're talking about what we're trying to achieve as an organisation and our business model. Yeah, low risk.
Does it also mean that people were actually sharing that with their families as well?
They could do, yeah. So if you're at home and you wanted to show them, what you're doing at work and the elephants, and there were certainly people that had taken selfies with their children in the savannah with elephants and zebras and all of that good stuff. Yeah.
Great idea. Let's talk a little bit about your organisation versus others. There is a big drive, I think, at the moment for all organisations around the world to define their purpose and to be clear about that and galvanise people around it.
Yeah.
I imagine when you're working in healthcare, it's not a big leap, actually. You're helping people every day in the most important way with their health. But how would you suggest, if I'm working for a management consultancy or whatever I'm doing, I'm making widgets, to find that purpose and really bring it to life? What would be your advice?
So at Bupa, our purpose is helping people live longer, healthier, happier lives and making a better world. And it's pretty much been that since we were founded in 1947, with a few tweaks along the way. And it's absolutely more than just words on the wall. Our people feel that connection to our purpose, deeply. And like you say, it's quite a natural link to be found. I think when you're working in a support function, though, you are that bit removed from customers. So it can feel like, what's my link to the purpose? And I always say to my team, we're not saving lives, but we do support people who do. And I think that's really important. How do you find that authentic connection to the purpose that then links to your personal values as well?
Yes.
So I think it's, if you're working in a consultancy, how are you supporting clients who then do have a direct link to purpose? I think it's how you find an authentic link for yourself, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. You say, as you say, a relatively small team. There's just 13 of you.
Yeah.
You do have this network across the business, and not that reports to you, but you've got this great relationship with them. But I'm guessing you're still needing to prioritise every day.
Always.
You've got people coming to you because success breeds that, doesn't it? More people knocking on the door. How do you ensure that you are working on what's most valuable and potentially turn away and say no to others?
We are really guided by the strategy, and I always find that a very useful tool because the strategy is so well embedded across the organisation. If someone comes to us with something that doesn't contribute to that, then it's quite easy for us to have authentic conversations with each other to say, this can't be a priority for us right now because it doesn't link to what we're trying to achieve as an organisation. And then ultimately, should we really be doing that project at all? So I find that is very helpful. The other thing that we've done is we've worked to a more of an agency model in the team.
Yes.
So rather than having all campaigns centrally funded through my budget, I ask leaders to pay us essentially to run a comms campaign for them for particular projects. I think it focuses the mind.
Yes.
Do we really want this huge campaign for this project? Does it warrant it? Do we have budget? Can we support it? And it means that we don't have last minute requests for big activations and communications because we're able to manage things in that way. So that's been something that's been really helpful in helping us prioritise and helping our colleagues prioritise what's communicated and what's not. And then we also talk a lot about bandwidth, and you have to be very careful about bombarding the organisation with communications all of the time, especially when you're going through a transformation. People have hard targets that they need to meet and focus on. And so anything that we do takes attention away from that and takes attention away from our customers and our patients and our residents. And so we have to be very mindful of that we're not trying to ask people to engage with too much.
And just be respectful, I think, of people's time. Yeah, absolutely. You've been at Bupa for almost 17 years. Right. And when I was looking at you on LinkedIn, I thought, that's refreshing. These days, we're so used to people saying a year here, 2 years here, hopping around.
Yeah.
But you've obviously had a very fulfilling, happy career at Bupa. What's the secret to that, do you think?
I think I always say yes to things. So I started out in external communications in the press office. I worked in corporate comms. I worked on sports sponsorship. I've worked in digital transformation. I've worked as a technology business partner. I moved into internal comms about 7 years ago. So I've done lots and lots of kind of corporate affairs roles across all the disciplines. So I think having that kind of rich, varied career and taking the opportunities as they come and trying not to be scared is really important. Like, it's really easy to say no to something because it feels like, especially as a woman, I think it's really easy to say, oh, I don't know if I can do that. And there's that analogy about women don't apply for a job unless they meet, I think, something like 90% of the job requirements, where a man would accept it if they could fulfill 50% or something.
Half. Yes. It doesn't sound like me.
No,
let's give it a go.
Trying not to have that mindset, trying to think, no, I can do that. And I'll give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, what's the worst that can happen? I think that's been really important. And I think one of the key things for me about my tenure at Bupa has been, I feel a very deep sense of loyalty to the organisation. It's been there for me through a number of life milestones. And I'm really grateful for that support. And in turn, I feel very loyal to the organisation. It's also is, and I sound like a broken record, it's a great place to work. It really is, genuinely. Fantastic people, a caring organisation with a fantastic purpose. And that means something to me. I want to feel like I've made a difference in the world when I look back at my career and when I'm retired. So I do really love working at Bupa. And because I've been able to have those different experiences, it doesn't ever feel samey. I'm still learning. I'm sure there will be challenges every day. Every day is different, but there will be challenges that I'll come up against. And I'll still feel like I'm learning in another 10 years, I'm sure, if I stick around.
One of the golden threads through this conversation, I think, has been, you haven't said it explicitly, but your attitude to failure. I don't think you're at all really worried about failure, are you?
I try not to.
Yeah.
I think that I suppose when I was younger, I definitely felt that sense of worrying about what if it goes wrong. And I've really tried to let go of that because it's such a waste of time. It really is.
Yes.
And if I think back at the early years of my career and the stress that I felt about mistakes, I feel regret about that.
Yeah.
So I really try. And it's definitely a skill and it's something you have to constantly remind yourself about, I think. And if I feel myself slipping into the trap of worrying about a little mistake I've made or the future, I can't worry about the unknown. You have to have that resilience and be okay with things going wrong. But I think a lot of it comes from the leaders that support me as well.
Yes.
That I'm not going to get told off if something doesn't go right. And that they're okay and they understand the risk that if I try something new, it might not go right, and that's okay with them as well as me. It's really important.
Really inspiring. Thank you very much, Jo. This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is brought to you by the Internal Communication Masterclass. I've condensed more than 30 years of experience and expertise into this unique, on-demand learning journey. Gain the capability, the confidence, and the credibility to turbocharge your career. There are 8 work streams in this masterclass, which you can buy individually or as one learning journey. Each work stream comes with a downloadable course book with some compelling homework tasks and more useful resources. Visit icmasterclass.com. Now, this is an entirely on-demand program, so you can learn at your own pace, anytime, anywhere. Plus, there's no expiry date, so you can revisit the content whenever you wish. And as a listener to this show, you get a 30% discount off each work stream or the entire masterclass, just pop the code podcast in at the checkout. Stand out from the crowd, gain that promotion, and feel re-energized and inspired. ICmasterclass.com. I'm going to head to those quick fire questions.
Sure.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you may have answered this question. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I think say yes is key. So yeah, don't be scared. Say yes. It will work out in the end. Yeah, that probably things will be okay.
Yes,
that reassurance I would give myself, definitely. That it's all going to be all right. You'll be okay.
And worry less.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't waste your time worrying.
Yeah. What piece of bad advice or outdated thinking do you think still dogs the comms profession, particularly the internal comms profession?
I think that lots of people think comms is easy.
Don't they just?
And that is so infuriating to me. Internal comms is expertise in the same way that finance is expertise, that risk, that technology, that legal is expertise. And when you come to me to create a communication campaign, I will provide you with that expertise based on years and years of experience and knowledge and understanding of how people consume communications. Anyone can knock something together. It doesn't mean people are going to read it or engage with it or care about it.
Yes.
I'll help you with that. And I'll make you famous if you let me and if you listen.
Another great tagline. Yeah. I'll make you famous. Who doesn't want that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Take us seriously. And as comms professionals, we should also stand up for ourselves on that point. I think I feel that very deeply and talk to my team about it a lot, that we are experts. We are subject matter experts. And if someone's not listening to you, then it's okay for you to take a step back and let them make their own mistakes. But you know, you're there to provide strategic advice and counsel. You're not there to faff about with slide decks. Add value and add expertise to the conversation.
Really love that. How would you complete this sentence? World-class internal communication is
not boring. Just to carry on the theme, a broken record again. Yeah, not boring, innovative, always linked to business outcomes, I think. And that's it. Ultimately, everything I try and do is linked in some way to how we impact our customer, ultimately. So always remembering that having that in the back of your mind will help focus the attention on the right things in a campaign.
It comes back to that expertise, because you're not just creating any old campaign
for the sake of
it. You're linking it back. You're thinking about the bandwidth of the audience.
Absolutely.
That sort of thing. Yeah, love it. So, Jo, at the end of the Internal Comms podcast, we give every guest a billboard for millions to see. We often mock these up. So if you like it in Times Square, you're very welcome. You can put any message you like on this billboard. What would you like?
I think be kind. I was trying to lead from kindness always. Have fun, obviously, and get stuff done. I think, we, I think we tried to build a reputation for ourselves in our team that we can move at pace and we deliver stuff. We do what we say we're going to do. So be kind, have fun, get stuff done.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you very much,
You're
Jo,
welcome.
for a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So that's a wrap for this episode of the Internal Comms podcast. For the show notes and all the links, head over to AB's website. That's abcom, abcom.co.uk. And you will find there our entire back catalogue of more than 100 episodes. If you did enjoy this show, I have a small favour to ask you. Please could you like or rate or maybe even subscribe to the show? That just helps other internal comms folks around the world find our podcast. So I'd be very grateful. Thank you. Until we meet again, lovely listeners, stay safe and well. And remember, it's what's inside that counts.